Hi, this is Jeff White with Personal Fighting Arts and Life and Living Now. And I wanted to share something that I had written a while back ago, and it was just living from the inside out. And really, with all the pressures that exist in our lives, it's easy to feel that we do conduct our lives going from one activity or deadline to another. The hectic pace with which we increasingly live our lives can make us feel like we're spinning or careening without the control that we desire. The goals and deadlines we adhere to are quite often set by external demands from our employers, our clients, our families, or other activities. While certainly necessary at times, it can reach a point where it's unhealthy. In order for a company to run efficiently, for example, managers must manage systems and they must lead people, which requires setting goals and meeting those goals, the execution of those goals. Thus, for the good of the organization, then we must adhere to the external demands and timelines. And depending upon our line of work, our clients' demands to a certain extent will inform our schedule. Are we in a business that operates outside the traditional 9 to 5 paradigm? Do we operate with international clients or even clients that are spread out over different time zones? This may require that we work what used to be considered non-traditional hours. Our families also have demands on us. Our kids go to soccer, football, tennis, lacrosse, band practice, and a host of other activities. And we want to spend time with our families and our spouses. They have their own agendas, and that also impacts our schedules. All of these are valid and worthwhile. However, we must never lose sight that while we have given our agreement to participate in these events, we must also remember not to lose sight of our own inner desires, drives, and expressions. With, while all of these are valid, in many cases necessary for the cohesion of work and family units, the practice of primarily scheduling only everyone else's demands can be unhealthy. It tends to be unhealthy for at least two reasons. One reason is that in doing so, we are constantly feeling we're at the mercy of our work or our family or outside interests and expectations. Thus, we lose an internal sense of control. And having an internal locus of control is key to a proper mental and emotional attitude. If we feel that we do not have a locus or center of control within us, we will slowly begin to feel victimized. We run the risk of surrendering our ability to decide our actions and our futures. It creates a great level of frustration and stress. And the second reason follows on the heels of that thought. We forget that we're in the situation by choice. The ability to see that everything we do is a matter of choice on our part is powerful. The other powerful perspective is to understand that where we are now is in no small part the culmination of our choices up to this time. Everything we do is a matter of choice, whether it feels that way or not. All actions are under our control. We may not like the consequences and we may not like the choices, but it is still important to realize that whatever we choose to do, we chose to do it. It may feel that we really do not have a choice or that our hands are forced, but we do indeed, as I mentioned, have a choice. We may not like our choices. We may feel that the circumstances were thrust upon us, but our response to the circumstances is still what is within our control. And this is a powerful understanding as it shifts the center of control back to us. We're not pinballs, unwittingly careening through life, bouncing from one pin to the other. Instead, while we may indeed be surprised in life by something we did not anticipate, our ability to recognize that we can choose and then control our reactions and responses is critical. It is also helpful to go back over your life, survey the incidents that you've experienced, review in your mind, or even better, write them down. Then look at it, see how you had choices in the matter. Hindsight can at times give you a better perspective so that you may educate yourself and so that you can handle future experiences with greater wisdom and skillfulness. At times, when we're in the midst of a situation, we may find it hard to appreciate the options that are available to us. It is important, however, that we train our minds to see that we do indeed have options. Granted, we may not like the options at our disposal. We may find that there is a somewhat limited field of options, but in every case, there are options, and we need to look at them. This is not to say that sometimes the choices for options are always feasible. They may be impractical and definitely at times will be difficult. The important thing to realize is that there are options and we will choose one of those. Therefore, our response is a matter of choice. And if we choose something, we have at some level consented to the response and we become responsible for the decision of what we do. We should strive, therefore, to make better, more skillful decisions and inform ourselves of all the options that are available. This decision-making process might be an uphill battle at times, filled with emotional baggage, but still we must recognize this is our choice. There's also a sense of freedom in knowing that we're the product of not always what happens to us, but what we have done with what happens to us. This is a very important point. The event is not as important as your response. Our response is a matter of our choosing. This puts the power back in our hands. We can choose our responses. We are in control of our destiny. If we choose to do nothing, then we must realize this is what we chose and move on to accept the consequences. Or we can change our actions and our thoughts and experience a different set of outcomes. The decision, the choice is ours. Knowing then that we are accountable for our results, knowing that we retain the ability to choose our responses to an event, can give us a tremendous sense of power and control. No one can force you to do anything without some level of consent by you. You just have to be able to live with the consequences of your choices. This understanding shifts the perceived locus of control away from the things that are external and places it back where it belongs, internally within each one of us. We have the ability to decide our actions, our responses, and therefore we should do so wisely. We are currently the sum, the culmination of all of our previous thoughts, decisions, and actions. In no small part, we have brought ourselves to where we are today. Tomorrow, it will be the same thing, as will be the day, the year, even the decade or decades after that. We are the product of our own choices, whether we like it or not. So then, what shall we do with this freedom, this power that we have to control our lives? What shall we do with this ability to control our destiny? Use it. It's that simple. Use it. Most of us do not. We've spent years feeling in some way that we are hitched to someone else's cart and are being simply pulled along. But you can do or be something different. Even if you like being pulled along by someone else's cart, the fact that you realize that you are there by choice is often a powerful, freeing realization in and of itself. But if you are feeling dissatisfied, unfulfilled, disenfranchised from your own desires, then only you can do something about it. Only you can make the decision and maintain the decision to consciously live your own life. So take time to sort out what it is you want to do in your life and with your life. How do you want to treat the people you have in your life? How do you want them to treat you? These two are often inextricably related. If you haven't already, take the time to find out what you do and do not like. Experiment. This wonderful world of ours is filled with sights, sounds, textures, beauty, and all kinds of beauty of all kinds, and a wonderful array of people and cultures. Explore. See what you like and do not like. Understand that's perfectly fine for you to enjoy both hip-hop music and Baroque, to enjoy both Rembrandt and Picasso, to prefer the desert over the mountains or any combination. The key is to broaden your scope of your world. You may find yourself fearful to go beyond the set perimeter, but go anyway. Expose yourself to what is out there, for it is all part and parcel of the world you live in. This also, now, does not mean just the good stuff. Look at the bad stuff as well. Gaze into the face of death and a loved one. Look at wars, see its destruction. Don't turn away from it. Know what is the reality of the world that you live in. Let it all touch you in some way. Read books on how other people have lived their lives, but don't just be satisfied with reading. Make sure you live your own life in the process. From this greater sense of awareness, you'll have the opportunity to develop a greater appreciation of the resources and the options that are available to you. Live your life by your own design. If you have a spouse or a partner, sit down with them and repeatedly go over what you and they want from your lives. Then go for it. Live your life from within inside of you. Live it from your own desires. It doesn't matter what you do in your job. If you enjoy it, be there to enjoy it. You may work third shift on an assembly line, and if you find a sense of service in that, then serve that assembly line with the knowledge that you chose to be there. Give it your best and do it with a sense of service and a knowing that you placed yourself there to do this job. Personal goals are a wonderful way to reinforce the fact that you live by choice. Write out where you want to be or what do you want to accomplish in the next 1, 3, 5-year time frames. Then make goals out of those items that are important to you and make them specific. Have a time deadline. Write out a specific plan for achieving these goals and then go for it. Keep those goals handy. Review them. Refer to them every day. Review your progress every week. Don't get bogged down in the day-to-day minutiae of things and forget to check in with your goals. It is often what we do. Even if we have been setting goals for a while, we kind of just say, yes, I will get to it. We don't refer to them every day. And I've been guilty of this as well. But when you check in with your goals every day, you'll remember it. And it'll help you reinforce that you live your life by choice and design. Day by day, you'll become more aware of the choices you make and how they impact your time, your family, your work, your life. Learning to live by your own lights means learning to listen to and trust your intuition. It means learning to develop your intuition. Some people are very distrustful of this thing called intuition. They feel that it's all emotion, lacks an intelligent basis, and therefore is untrustworthy. In reality, your intuition can be trusted. Our conscious brains assimilate a great deal of information. However, it takes in much more than our subconscious mind, takes in much more information. So our conscious minds assimilate a great deal about the world around us and our experiences, but our subconscious brain, our subconscious mind takes in much more. Initiation or intuition is the gut feeling that we have. That's that still small voice that speaks to us when we most often are quiet, when our mind is still. Sometimes it's not so small of a voice either. The key is to practice listening. Follow your intuition so you may build it up and strengthen it, exercise it, both in sensitivity to its leanings, but also build confidence in them as well. The training of ourselves to listen to our deepest core has a number of benefits. It causes us to be introspective. It makes us a little more quiet so that we may hear ourselves. I believe it will also lead to less stress and accompanying ills that are derived from stress-filled existence. We train ourselves to listen to our intuition by practicing listening. Start small. Ask questions. Listen for the quiet leading, the still small voice within. Listen or be sensitive to your gut reactions. Explore your feelings to see if there might be some underlying motive for you to feel this way. Make note of the feelings, but it's not necessary in most cases to discount the leading entirely. Just understand that it might have had an influence on how well you may be hearing yourself. Then follow through with your intuition, look at the results. Do you have a greater peace at the end than at the beginning? How did it all work out? Over time, you'll develop the proper sensitivity and confidence with which you can master and trust your ability to follow your internal leadings. This trial and error path is the only way that I know that works for this kind of thing. So what happens if I get it wrong? Then realize it. Apologize if necessary and go back and do it again. Never give up learning. Never give up training and exercise. Your intuition is not going to lead you in a direction that you feel is morally wrong. Also, be in touch with what your values are. Your values will always be a guiding light, a compass as you live your life by your own design. Take the time to understand what you value and why. It's an important lesson in living consciously. Do so, and you will seldom stray from something that is not you. Live by the golden rule, do unto others as you have them do unto you. I firmly believe in do no needless harm. This is a guiding principle in my life and in my business, and I'm convinced that the individual who desires to live from the inside out and looks inward finds the goodness in their soul. The golden rule is still one of the most important principles we know. Also, we start small on learning to access our intuition. We do not just jump into the middle of big decisions if we've never tried to listen to our intuition in the past. Now, that's not to say that you can't. We all have had our gut reactions in lives. It just means that to use it as a tool, we need to train it. And it just means that we use it as a tool, not as our only decision-making tool. Remember, this is a tool to be used, one tool of perhaps many, but an important tool nonetheless, and one that has to be honed by constant use. In determining how we go about living our lives from the inside out, one might be tempted to say, just do the right thing. Problem is that the right thing may be culturally defined and therefore not in keeping with what we may want. When an issue is culturally defined, it has been molded to the group mindset. To give into it simply because we are told it is the right thing lends itself to a negating of the principle of living by your own lights. One needs to ascertain what one's beliefs are in order to determine your own set of guiding principles and values. Once these values take shape or are refined, following them is much easier. Look deeply inside and see that your actions coincide with your highest and deepest values. In doing so, you will seldom go astray. There are times when culturally, socially, what is considered to be a proper thing or a right thing when okay does not line up with our values. Our values are deeper than that. If you're living by your own lights, you follow your own set of values and do no needless harm. Now, this is also not to say that you won't have competing values. You may have a deeply held belief regarding family and another one that involves freedom and personal expression. They may not be at odds, but they can still be competing priorities for your time. At times, one value must be subjugated to the other, and when this is done, do it with reason. Do it with forethought. Do it with understanding. In this way, you will feel less conflicted, and ultimately, you will find a way to honor all of your values. A key is to make sure you find ways to honor all the parts of you and all of the values that you hold dear. So what if I want to, what I want to do seems to run contrary to what seems best? Then take your time, look at the situation from as many angles as you can, analyze your motivations, and then make the decision that seems best to you, not just in the short term, but the long term. Look at the principles by which you live your life by, and choose which principles would apply in this situation, and then apply them. Now, when we're doing this, so when you take your time, when you look at a situation from many angles, you want to look, not, as I mentioned, not just the short term, but also the long term. The longer time frame you take into consideration, the more sound your decisions will be. Additionally, the wider scope you take into your consideration, the better. We're talking here about living by our own designs, but we don't live in a vacuum. All of our decisions do have ramifications for ourselves as well as for others. First, it affects those that are closest to us in whatever capacity to which the issue pertains. We must remember that our decisions affect us internally and externally. Every thought and emotion builds up in us over time. It affects the collective us, our families, our coworkers, the city, the state, the nations in some way. It affects how we see the world. All of these should be taken into consideration to ascertain their impact. But there will still be times when it's important to lead with our instinct or a sense of what is best for us and to move forward in spite of convention. In these times, have the courage to move forward in the compassion for others as they may not understand. Have the strength of your convictions and the knowledge that your convictions are sound. In doing so, I have found that the results that followed were always worth the price that was paid. Living by your own lights requires courage, requires strength, a deep sense of understanding. It is often, unfortunately, done an emotional whim that many times causes more damage than it helps or was worth. However, it has also been the pathway of exploration for thousands of years. We sailed across seas that were once thought as flat. We built cities, we painted, we moved into space. We started successful businesses, we took a chance on someone and it paid off. We have improved lives and created community. Following our own lights is not without cautions. However, it is well worth it when at the end of the day, the end of your life, you know that you have lived your life as you chose, making the best of every situation and learning from each one. A life well lived indeed. I hope you enjoy.